Hi, this is Beru, and I'm going to walk you through healing the Heroic Staghelm encounter from a Resto Druid perspective. Um, I'm sure a lot of you are kind of wondering what took me so long to get this particular guide out. And to be honest with you, I'm not really sure why I've been dragging my feet with it until this morning when I sat down to do it. And I realized that the reason behind it is just that there isn't a whole lot of healing strategy or healing in general to be done in the fight. So there's not a lot to talk about. So I am going to talk about some of the tips and tricks of the fight in general, adding in a few Resto Druid sort of tips along the way. You're going to see we started in the scorpion form there right at the base of the stairs. And what we do is we never ever take a slash from that scorpion in any of the times he's in the scorpion phase. So we're going to move out at 75 energy to make sure that he transforms into his cat form. And then we're going to handle, the cat phase of the fight. We take 7 leaps in the cat phase of the fight. And on the 6th leap, as soon as he hits 66 energy, we all converge in to make sure that he transforms back into his scorpion form before, he does an 8th leap that's usually right on top of the raid. Throughout most of the fight, like I said, there's not a lot of healing to be done outside of the part where you've kind of got those fire balloons that come up. Pretty much I just keep a life bloom on the tank. I use Nourish as a filler spell to keep my harmony active. I'll keep a rejuve on the tank. I'll swift mend under the tank and put efflorescence under him. For a large part of the fight, that's about all there is to heal. During the cat phase, you need to heal up people who get nicked by those leaps and maybe get nicked by the fire. But other than that, there's really just not a whole lot going on. For this part of the fight, we've transformed him back to Scorpion. We're not going to let him swipe, but we've got the Serene Seeds out. You're going to see that bar on my left. That's my concentration bar. And basically, every time I take damage, my concentration bar resets to 0. And so the goal of the fight is for as many people as possible to get that concentration bar up full at 100% and keep it that way, because you get significantly increased damage and significantly increased healing when your concentration is at 100. Now you're going to see here that I run way out of the way with my Serene Seeds. Because I'm going to lose my concentration when I take damage, it's really important that I don't hit anybody with those seeds, because if I hit somebody else, I'm going to reset their concentration to 0, which is really bad because it's a fairly tight rage timer on the encounter, especially if you're just learning it. So everyone in the raid makes sure that they get away. We often will use vent to communicate who's exploding so that people know to watch for other people and can help move away if they see that they're near them. And the goal is to keep your concentration at this legendary 100 concentration as much as possible. Like I said, throughout this fight, during the cat phase, it's just, helping sustain life on the tank and topping off the people that get nicked by the cat fire. As the fight goes on, it's increasingly more important that people try their best to dodge the fire, to make sure that they're preemptively moving if the leap is coming in their direction, because towards the end of the fight, all it takes is about 1 or 2 full ticks of that fire damage to kill somebody. Now we're going into our first orb phase here, and I want to specifically address our pairing of orbs that we have right here. You're going to see that these orbs are paired up very close together. And that makes it hard for a pair of people to get in there and manage the orbs. We found the best way to deal with a clumped set of orbs like this is to have the 4 people that would have been soaking the orb get up into that position, and all 4 people, rather than 2 people trying to take one orb and 2 people trying to take the other orb, all 4 people will rotate out of this. So as soon as I have 4 of my debuff, I'm just going to move out. Somebody who has cleared their debuff is going to move in. You gain your stacks of 4 much quicker than you would with just 1 orb, but you've got 4 people rotating in and out, so you have time to get it cleared, and it really makes it much easier to manage that clumped group of orbs. So I did just want to point that out. You're going to see that in the orb phase, I popped into Tree of Life to try to roll life blooms on everybody in range of me. We use 3 healers to help soak orbs. A lot of guilds don't do that. They let their healers stack at their legendary concentration, and they'll only use 4 healers because there's so little healing in the fight. We run in very melee heavy roster, so we don't have the ranged DPS to facilitate soaking all 6 sets of orbs without having some of the healers stay in. So it works for us. We run with 5 healers. We don't hit the enraged timer. Your guild may do it differently, and you may not have to soak orbs, in which case you should have an easier time healing up people during those orb phases because you're not tethered to one of the orbs. For us here, you see again, we're back into a cat phase. We successfully navigated the orb phase. The orb phases are the hardest part of this fight on Heroic. It's very tricky, especially as people get the debuff from the orb, and then as the cat leaps and his damage starts to increase in both the leap and the fire patch that he leaves. While learning the fight, you'll find you lose a lot of people during that orb phase, and it can be very tricky to navigate. To deal with the orbs, we pair up, like I said, 12 people, 1 pair for each orb. And the way we handle it is we put 6 markers out, and we have 1 person that's the marker and 1 person that's paired with the marker. And the way it works is the marker finds an orb, and the person paired with a marker will go and follow that person, and it's their job always to be at the same orb as the person with their marker. There's a lot of communication that has to happen in order to do that, because, of course, orbs are all over the room, and sometimes you're going to have like 4 in one quadrant and 1 in another, and it can be very tricky to navigate around. But the thing that I want to stress the most about succeeding through those orb phases is to have really good communication with your orb soakers. So, have the person with the marker say, I'm taking the north orb, or so-and-so is taking the south orb, or we're pairing up in this clump of orbs. And, it ends up ultimately working out fairly well for everybody. Again, there's not a lot of healing to be done outside of those orb phases. I help the tank with keeping life blue on him, with a rejuve on him. We have disc priests. We run 2 disc priests usually in this fight, and they smite outside of the orb phases mostly. One of the disc priests will be on the tank full time during the orb phase. The other one helps soak an orb with us. We have a holy paladin that never has to soak an orb, but that does have a pretty big responsibility during those orb phases to try and keep his concentration legendary and keep the tank alive. Because we have 3 healers that help soak those orbs, it's really important that the 2 healers not responsible for the orbs go into quadrants during that phase where there may not be another healer, because of course having 3 healers tethered to soaking an orb is somewhat problematic in the sense that they're limited in where they can move and who they can reach. So good communication with your healers on who's where and where they might need extra heals will also be important if you're using healers to facilitate soaking some of the orbs. We're going to go here into our second orb phase. So this time I only have 1 orb. I'm paired up with a mage, and you can see that this orb is fairly far away from here. But the way the orbs work is it just has to be the person closest to it to take it. So we're both going to put ourselves in range so that I can reach the tank and other people, and he can reach the boss and continue to DPS while the orb is active. So even though the orb's really far away, it's important that you don't feel that you need to stand right underneath it. It will make it more challenging when the time comes to have to change it up, especially if a cat leaps and you're right underneath the orb. It makes it very hard to navigate around it. I pop Tree of Life. Again, going into the orb, I just like to be able to roll the life blooms on myself and my soaking partner and anybody else I can reach that is soaking an orb. That debuff does tick for quite a bit of damage, so it's really important to keep them up. If you get into trouble here and you see a lot of the raid is taking damage and you're in a position to do so, use Tranquility. I generally will use Tranquility in those situations during the orb phase. I'll communicate to my partner that that's when I'm using it. Other than that, I don't use it much. Thank you for watching, and please don't hesitate to let me know if you have any questions.